So the dream of Detroit is for us to come together, and while we work to challenge those systemic oppressions that lead to gentrification, that lead to divestment, that lead to despair, we're also calling each other in to another kind of conversation that says, how can I be good kin? How can I be family, right? Good family members to those who share some identities with me, but others might be different, right? How do we see one another when the oppressor says that we are worthless, we have no value, we are easily discarded, but we know otherwise, we believe otherwise, right? For many, many reasons.
So we call this event the Black Religion Summit, I would say for two reasons. Number one, because the truth is Detroit is a majority black city and it's a city of faith. It's a city that has had, at one point, over 3,000 churches. It's a city that helped birth Islam in Black America. It's a city that you can't organize in if you aren't tapped into faith communities.
And I'm really thrilled to be a part of the Black Religion Summit here in Detroit because for me, it is an answer to an urgently needed space for dialogue, for problem solving.
We begin in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. All praise is due to God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and we seek his prayers and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad and all his prophets. We are so honored to have this room look like it does right now, mashallah. This is a beautiful vantage point to see all these folks and our community come together for this conversation. So Dr. Camila Movement-Oseguera's talk, Interfaith Dynamics and Spiritual Diversity in Black Communities, draws on research and dialogue that she pioneered as part of the Exploring Black Christian Views of American Muslims research study conducted by her organization, the Muslim Wellness Foundation, and the ISPU. The research was done between March and June of 2020, so eager to hear some of her reflections on what this current moment looks like for us. But the purpose of the study was to gain insight and understanding into how Black Christian views of American Muslims are formed and to identify the impacts of these views on interracial, interracial, and interfaith dialogues.
But what happens when you have Black Muslims, Black Christians, Black Jews now talking about relationships amongst each other? Right? What shifts? What other questions do we ask? I am speaking to a family of people from Detroit who are related to those who call this place home. But it also means that the conversations that we have as a family at times might be challenging. But what keeps us in those conversations is that there is love, there is faith, there is commitment and passion to what we think this place can be for us. So when I talk about us being family, it is knowing that somewhere along the line, my ancestors were also Muslim, and they were also Christian. They were people who believed in the freedom of other people and would fight for it, would lose their own lives or put their lives at risk for it. And so this Christian heritage, this Methodist, African Methodist Episcopal heritage that I have, and then gratitude for my parents for being open to what liberation and faith meant for them, gives me a history, it gives me a power that I'm coming to understand, also calls me to act and serve in the ways that I do. And when you know this history, it comes with an obligation. So what happens when you're both Black and Muslim? Black people are already marginalized racially, and then even amongst those who identify as African American, the assumption is that you're a Christian. This is what's called intersectional invisibility. Right? So a way that you become even erased within your minoritized group. This is what it looks like when you understand the disadvantages of not being seen as a member of either group. As a Black Muslim, not being seen as a member of the larger American Muslim community. And then, as a Black person, someone asking you, well, are you Black or are you Muslim? I'm going to give you some key findings from the work, right? Black Christian views of American Muslims, and how that worked to uncover what are some of the biases, what are some of the attitudes, what are the views, what are the misconceptions, what are people confused about when it comes to Black Muslims? So when we ask that question, what do you think of when you hear the words American Muslim? For the most part, I think of a Black Muslim, right? Maybe Arab, but mostly I'm thinking of a Black Muslim. I'm thinking of the Nation of Islam. I think of African Americans who are descendants of enslaved people who follow the Muslim faith. Right? They also think of symbols, right? Prayer rug, women being covered. They think of a building. But then these sort of characteristics. Well, Muslims don't eat pork. Muslims convert in prison. Right? And then this sort of kind of character of Black Muslims that are appreciated by the Black community, right, of resistance, of self-determination, of self-empowerment, of discipline, right? Many of them said, like, I'm kind of low-key jealous of Muslims because y'all have a kind of focus and discipline that I find lacking in my own religious community. When you ask me about an American Muslim, I'm thinking of the brother on the corner with a sharp suit and the bow tie. That's who I'm thinking about. Right? So there's a lot of familiarity, right? We're family. But when it comes to talking about our religious and spiritual identities, there's something that happens that makes Blackness all-encompassing, right? Yeah, I know you're a Muslim, but we Black. People with privilege do that, right? Well, we're all the same, right? There were so many of our participants who said, you know what, now that we're talking about it, I have a lot of cousins who are Muslim. I never asked them about what they believe. So what Black Christians knew, their knowledge of Islam was very low, but their familiarity was very high. So what happens when you have high familiarity and low knowledge? Right? You can tell me about practices. Oh, ain't you supposed to be praying now? I thought you was fasting. I thought Muslims don't, right? And it's like, well, tell me about the 5 pillars. And they're like, what? I don't know what you believe. I just see what you do. Right? So that was an interesting takeaway. So when we wanted to explore further, what started to become uncomfortable for our Black Christian participants was the realization that they did have bias towards non-Black Muslims and towards the Black Muslims in their families. For those who didn't meet a Black Muslim until they went to college, they associated that Black Muslim person more closely with their activism than their religion. Right? Like, most of the people on campus who are involved in organizing, a lot of them are Muslims, right? But they do this thing about justice because they're Black, not because they're inspired by their faith. So we gave them a little bit of context, right? And this came later after the research was collected. Many of them had never seen this. I think we take for granted because we're always around each other that there are conversations about belief, but there is not. So they may know prayer, fasting, but they were fascinated by our understanding of Jesus. And we had to pause, right? In later explanations and in talking to Black Christians about this research, they said, wait a minute. You believe in Jesus? I'm like, yeah, we do. There's a whole chapter about his mom. So we asked them, well, what are your final thoughts? Somebody said, I think there's a surface knowledge of Muslims or Islam, but not a depth to it. I said, okay, give me more. Most of our exposure comes from the Malcolm X movies or the book or the Brothers on the Corner, some of that, but I don't think there's been that much intentional, in-depth exploration of the Muslim tradition.
I think Dr. Camila did the most beautiful job of saying that we had a high level of familiarity, but a low knowledge.
And so for us to do our work to help create stronger neighborhoods and a better city for everybody, we have to figure out how do we work together across faith lines to do that.
I would like to welcome all of you to Historic Masjid Wali Muhammad. We greet you with the greetings of peace from all the prophets, from Adam to Muhammad, the greetings of Assalamu alaikum. This is a beautiful occasion, brothers and sisters, and rightly so. It's in a historic edifice. This is a beautiful reunion, and we appreciate all of the faith partners and groups who came together to make this event possible. And we're in this location where we have food deserts, we have all types of situations, crime, etc., poverty, and the obligation for us is to put something back into our community. In order to do that and have resources to do that, we have to understand that we have to partner. We have to realize our situation and our dilemma, and nobody's coming to our aid. And if we are believers as Muslims and Christians, we're obligated not just to pray, but we're obligated to work. We're obligated to do things to rescue our people.
Religion and spirituality have always been integral to the survival and the ascension of Black communities across the globe. But here in America, from before slavery to the depths of slavery to the heights of liberation movements, our faith has been a source of strength, of resilience, and hope in the face of adversity. Around 77, because I was born in 79 or so, my father, Imam Abdullah El-Amin, who was one of the founders of the Muslim Center, decided that he was going to come, into Islam. And like many Black converts, as we've been discussing today, he was the only Muslim in his family. And when anyone converts to a different religion, a different way of life, it can be a little bit weird for the family. You know what I mean? Like, it's like their parents raised them in something that they felt was the best thing for them. And so when they change, it can feel like a slap in the face a little bit sometimes. It can be a very sensitive moment, I should say. And so it was the same in our family, but my grandmother, she took a different route. And I believe that it really laid the foundation for my father's interfaith work. My grandmother, my praying Christian grandmother, she came down to the mosque, temple number 1 here. She came to Wali Muhammad, and she purchased a Quran for her son. My praying Christian grandmother came down to the mosque on her own, and she purchased a Quran for her son who had just become Muslim. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about interfaith work and interfaith relations. We're talking about mutual respect, right? And my father took that spirit of mutual respect into his work, and I watched as a child us going to different churches, going to different synagogues, going to different places where he would introduce us in these interfaith communities. And so our Islam was not just in the walls of the Muslim Center. Our Islam was an out loud Islam where we were proud of who we were, but we were also going to make sure that we connected with other people who were on the same righteous path.
We want to get into this next panel with our distinguished group of scholars and teachers and community leaders here. Very much honored to have you all, and eager to have a very rich conversation, and then a rich dinner and a rich listening experience.
I want us to open up our panel with the very first question of, we would love to hear your own reflections and takeaways from Dr. Camila's talk today.
We have to focus more on understanding than being understood. Focus more on understanding each other than trying to prove a point. And I think in our society, we mess up trying to prove what we know and who we are versus learning how to just love each other and realize that even though, again, we may be different in some ways, we have so many things that unite us. So I think when it pertains to family members and others who may not think as we think, may not believe as we believe, we have to never forget the power of love and realize that we have to accept one another as we are and know that as we work together, we can do much more together. Thank you.
Well, this is a quote from Malcolm X, and he says, and this is the Ballad of the Bullet speech that he gave at King Solomon, right? And he said, whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a nationalist, we all have the same problem. They don't hang you because you're a Baptist, they hang you because you're black. They don't attack me because I'm Muslim, they attack me because I'm black. They attacked all of us for the same reason. All of us catch hell from the same enemy. We're all in the same bag, in the same boat. We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation, all of them from the same enemy, right? For me, that is like a key point in terms of us organizing around what unites us and what we share in common, and why we shouldn't let scriptural differences, et cetera, stand in the way of that organizing.
If I see my brother or my sister being attacked where they cannot be able to express their faith freely, I need to be offended by that. In this day and time, in this conversation, we have to learn how to work together, how to respect each other, and know that everybody is important and everybody should be free to express their faith wherever they are.
If you don't know anything about us, our church is right across from the Muslim Center on Davidson. When it comes to fellowshipping, when it comes to community engagement, to be so close to one another, it's impossible for us not to work together. We found ourselves marching last year, Chill Don't Kill, down Davidson. I'm reminded of a scripture right now that says, behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And if this country's been anything, it's been anything that we know about, it's about the disunity of black people regardless of what they believe. And it's always a move by the enemy, the oppressor, to keep us from being together, from living together, from fellowshipping together, from loving together. And in this moment, in this time of history, we need to learn to love one another and work together for the betterment of the community.
Just recently, last year, I left my post serving as the senior advisor to Mayor Mike Duggan, and one of my responsibilities was faith-based affairs. I've served both two mayors, Mayor Bing and Mayor Duggan, in this space, and it was through the relationships that I've built, of course, with, I call it one of my second homes, Mosque Number 1 under Minister Troy Muhammad. When you talk about blight, when the mayor said, how can we clean up, how can we get rid of blight? It was Mosque Number 1 and the brothers and the sisters from there who came and said, this is what we can do.
When I see brothers in my community with suits on, with kufis on, then I know, you know what, that man probably has been cleaned up. That man probably knows God. So it's not the concern for me whether the brother be a Muslim or a brother be a Christian. What's the concern for me is that a brother be righteous and he protects the community in which he stays in. And that to me is what's important.
God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. But then to follow that up, I was delivered to the Baptist church through the Muslim community. I wasn't going to church. I didn't even like preachers. But my closest friends I don't know how many of you all knew Naeem Akbar. Okay, Naeem, Munir, Mitch, these were my boys. Now, these guys delivered me and set me up in such a foundation that I was able to see true God in men and women, regardless to the label that we put on them. And I kept that relationship. One of my closest friends was Daoud Muhammad. And Daoud and I started an organization called the Cross and the Crescent. We was cleaning up that neighborhood around there.
Our generational wounding is what connects us. Our generational healing is what keeps us together. And as I saw, and one of the things I was just really enjoying the panel, and I'm like, look at us as a people. We have so much joy as Black people. As the pastors were laughing together and going back and forth with each other. And so that's us as a people. And we can't forget that.
Alhamdulillah, once again, I'd like to thank our Christian brothers and sisters for coming. I've often done a lot of interfaith and outreach with them. I have the same story as many of us had. My family was Christian. My father, he was Christian, but he wasn't too religious, so he wanted to find a way, so he got me into Lutheran school. My grandmother was COIGC, the grandmother of the church. They started out in her basement. They tarried, they prayed, so I was around all of this. But as a reminder, and I know Sister Camilla has it, for us as Muslims, I came from a community who believed in themselves. My mother used to dress me in dashikis when I was young. Before I knew what a daishiki was. People were like, what is that funny shirt you got on? It's a daishiki. Don't you know what a daishiki is? And an extension of what she said, it was beautiful what she spoke about with the Christian community and what problems that have happened between them, but a further discourse needs to be done with the Muslims themselves. Because we found the very same problems from the immigrant community. I'm just keep it real with you. There's some mosques I'm not welcome at, just because of the color of my skin. Just because of being dark, some people have asked me, did you become Muslim in prison? No, not every Black Muslim became Muslim in prison. Not all of us came from anything other than that. So with the extension of that, and with the understanding of that, we have to realize there's a deep understanding that needs to be done. And I think the most beautiful thing in this gathering right here today, was that we prayed together for someone.
The interfaith that we're seeing here, it starts for me in my family, because I was the only Muslim in my family. And I grew up around Christians, Muslim, Jews, Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, our neighbors across the street were Catholic, so we ate fish on Friday. So it didn't make a difference because we were just growing up together. It didn't make a difference whether we were Muslim, Christians, or Jews. We were just family, children playing with each other, and we loved each other. So this is what I see when I look out over this crowd. You know, we're not children, but we're engaging with each other. We love each other. We're happy to be here, and we hope that you are happy to be here as well.
I am a born and raised Muslim to a Muslim father and a Muslim mother, came through the Nation of Islam in the late 60s and late 70s. Okay, and through that, I'm also I got baptized at 7 years old when my mama let me go live with my grandmama. I don't have the average Muslim story, all right? So my grandfather was a pastor. My other grandfather was a bishop. My grandmother was an evangelist. My auntie was an evangelist. My uncle was an evangelist. I lived with all of them. So I was like a little kid. Thanks God for my mama. My mama, she had certain experience where she allowed me to see the world through my family.
I heard everyone kind of share their own spiritual genogram here, because we're not meant to be in silos. We're meant to be in communities with each other, right? And so we have this saying in Islam. It says, those who know themselves know God. We're in this space getting to know ourselves. We're in this space sharing of ourselves. But everything that I've heard from our Christian faith leaders, our Muslim faith leaders, is that God is not meant to stay in this room. We're supposed to make sure and do our best to spread the word of God outside of these walls.
My fourth great-grandparents probably did not imagine having a Muslim descendant. But here I am, and I'm proud to lift up the names of those ancestors who, because of their Christian values, instilled something in me. So it is not just simply the trauma that they're passing down, it is the possibility, it is the hope, it is the risk, and the desire for freedom that I'm also going to claim in my Christian lineage and in my Muslim lineage. I say what I say with love. I love my people. We have everything we need. God has given us everything we need, and we need each other in order to fulfill the promise. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Historic Masjid Wali Muhammad, this building is historic, which is designated by the city and the state because of our Islamic heritage or culture here. So in 1959, we have the deed upstairs when this building was purchased, and it stayed a temple until I think 1975. And that was the year that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad died. And his son, Imam Muwahhideen Muhammad, took over the helm at that time of the Nation of Islam. So this building has a lot of history as to the people that came through these doors. This is our social hall. The actual masala that we call, or where we pray, is upstairs. And we'll get a chance to see that. Minister Louis Farrakhan, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, which are the names that stand out more than anyone when you talk about African American Muslims, have all been through this building. When you're talking about African American Muslims in the city of Detroit or in the United States, you know, this was number one. This is where it all started.
I'm grateful for the space. I'm grateful that we came to Masjid Wali Muhammad to spend time, not just as a tour. We lived in its space, and that was very impactful for me. When I came into this space, I didn't know what the social hall was called at the time, but when I walked in, I said, oh, this is a fellowship hall, and I felt a knowing.
I am intrigued, I am drawn to sacred places within cities, and am just thrilled to be here in this place. Masjid Wali Muhammad and the community here has been immensely welcoming. I felt a peace as soon as I walked through the doors. I felt a sense of community, a sense of purpose, and thinking about batons that are being passed on from one generation to another, I see that work happening here.
So we just came from a beautiful tour where we went to a space where there's dreaming happening, there's some reimagining happening. There's some homes that are being built up, some that are in disrepair, some that are in varied states, right? And that kind of focus isn't always appreciated. It's like, no, we want everything new, or we want everything to be, you know, torn down and built up, right? And so, but that process of the life of a space is important, and figuring out where we will go next is a big part of our conversations.
We've been doing this a little over 10 years. We've renovated 15 homes in the neighborhood, many of those through charitable donations that people made to Dream, and then we poured into the homes, usually then making them affordable as rentals, or sometimes selling them for, you know, way below market value and certainly below the rehab value. But basically the point was to put families in homes. And for a lot of our time, we've talked about not just doing low-income housing or affordable housing, but really building a mixed-income neighborhood. Not really accepting the type of like class segregation that we see in our neighborhoods, not accepting that either as normal or as the best thing for our neighborhoods. So we call that Project Homecoming. And our intention was to make that a home for men who were formerly incarcerated or justice impacted, and to make that a 4-bedroom transitional and reentry house for those men, and to layer on both the types of supportive services they need to get back on their feet. Of course, a big part of what we wanted to do, being rooted in this neighborhood, was also make sure that those brothers could connect to a mosque on a regular basis. Walking distance, and to try to, maintain some level of regularity with the disciplined practice that they had prior to coming home, because it can be just a world of difference. So that's what we call Project Homecoming. Behind you is the sign for what we're calling the Dream Center. So inshallah, God willing, that is coming in the next year or so. That is going to be our first purpose-built office space. The center will also have like an upstairs conference room that's available for the community to rent out as needed, an outdoor courtyard, a retail kiosk, and then a community, a park for the community as well. So, for us, this is our first foray into building on commercial parcels. These are the first commercial parcels that will actually go into the community land trust. It's our most open and welcoming space for neighbors to come engage with Dream.
My name is Mujahid, okay? Don't butcher my name. Everybody that knows me calls me Moo. Moo, it's the M and a U. And I'm the son of Imam Luqman, the founder of Masjid al-Haq. It started at another building. This is where they are now. This doesn't really tell the whole story. This is the place that we are now. The other place has most of the history.
MashaAllah, your father, Imam Luqman Shaheed, he was doing a lot of things right. A lot of what you said, whether it was on the business side, the religious side, or just building the community. What do you take like as his legacy that you're moving forward with as doing this work?
SubhanAllah, that's a good question. His legacy, he was a worker in service of people, okay? In service of Allah, number one. But he's like, you can't do this here without being in service of people. That's the contract. That's the contract between you and the Creator. Some fundamental things you have to do. You have to feed people. If you can't do nothing else, if you eating, somebody else better be eating with you. There is no way you can be a righteous person and you're full and your neighbor is hungry. That's in the Sunnah, that's from the Prophet. And so he built on these things. So he had services for people, like the school, and then he taught people how to have their own business. And his whole thing was pay it forward. It ain't just about you, you gotta pay it forward. So that's a lot of it, but you gotta be in servitude. You gotta be out here doing some work, building things up around you. You should be able to see some effects from what you do.
The Afterlife of Sacred Spaces project is one that we have been working on for over a year. And I started it with a couple of folks at the Center for Religion and Cities, really working with the Black congregation, Black Christian congregation in Washington, D.C. And as we began this process, we did listening circles similar to the ones that we did today about who are we, who do we want to be, what are our feelings around this space. When a city and its religious communities undergo drastic change, what will happen to those sacred spaces and their buildings? Will they be acquired by developers? Will they fall into disrepair? Will they be revived and carry out a new mission? Or will they move to a new place like we saw the masjid today? It was in one place and went to another place and went to another place, carrying out its same goals and values. Or will communities embrace the change and transform themselves? So will they be offering prayer in new ways, ministering in radically different formats? So praying through gardening or in theaters, what will that look like? And so there's also the question of what challenges and difficulties might emerge from such transitions. And what rituals might we nurture to help us move gracefully through that?
My sacred space has gardens tended with love. My sacred space bears the colors and decor of the liturgical season. My sacred space has community composting. My sacred space is a sanctuary for my soul. My sacred space fosters calm and simplicity and rest.
My sacred place is a peaceful, clean place, and it's a kind space where everyone can feel welcome and a part of it.
My sacred space is a prayer area, beautiful floor plants, massage chairs, vegetable gardens, flower garden, Quran recitation, hand knitting, and coffee hot.
Is it black? It has flowers, bright open windows, a prayer space, and a nice soft made bed.
I just think that we live in such a dynamic time with faith communities, with the decline, frankly, of religious practice in the country, with the changing landscape of houses of worship. And I think we have to be having real conversations about the next phase of our houses of worship, but also perhaps how those places become repurposed and how we create sacred spaces even outside of those particular physical houses of worship. So I really enjoyed that conversation. So we are about to wrap up the program. We are about to break bread one more time, as my Christian brethren would say. And you know, we've had an incredible weekend, a weekend where folks traveled to be together, where we built new relationships, where we uncovered new information and got to grapple with it together. A weekend where we brought Christian clergy and Muslim clergy together in a way that I don't see a lot in the city.
We need more time together. We need more time to build trust, to talk about the things that are difficult, but also to come back to a place that honors how deeply motivated and passionate we are because of the work that's inspired by faith. So the Black Religion Summit has been an extraordinary opportunity for us to both celebrate and challenge and explore and deepen perhaps understandings that are needed in this urgent moment.
The Black Religion Summit for me brought together a group of religious leaders within the African American community that I had never seen come together before. Even though we were different, there was a commonality that we all shared, and the Black Religion Summit made this possible.
The similarities between us is uncanny. So it just shows us that, you know, as a community, we have to get out into the public and, you know, make these connections, not just once every 10 years. You know, we have to go to these churches, these different houses of worship, and introduce ourselves and get with the community. We got a lot of homework. We got a lot of leg walking and door knocking to do.
As a scholar, as a psychologist, as a community member, as a mother, Black religion means power, it means potential, a spirit of resistance and of revolution, of liberation. Black religion means that we are continuing to be on the path of understanding the Creator and the commandments that we are obligated to fulfill on this earth, to the earth and to each other. So when we have a multiplicity or diversity of spirituality and religious approaches and traditions, it gives us, I think, this beautiful tapestry that we're able to tap into in order to realize, right, our ultimate goal of freedom for everyone, of liberation, and of contentment and peace.